What's up, kiddos? It's your boy Finn, as it were. And yes, I have done my hair. And yes, this hair does glow in the dark. I'm gonna be rocking this for a couple months and then I'll change to something else. Of course, that's just how it goes. But I wanted to get into the subject of this video. So there are a few things that bother me. If you've been watching this channel for any period of time, you might be aware of the things that bother me. The list is short, but it exists. And so, let me just get into it. So the other day, about a week ago, I was called a bedwench. Yes, a bedwench. Just let that sink in right quick. And for those of you who do not know what a bedwench is, I will try to give you a basic definition along with a little bit of history. So, a bedwench is a woman of color, namely black women, who date outside their race, namely white men. It's not limited to white men, but it's mostly a black-white thing. And the reason why this is because of the history behind it. It originates from black slavery, African-American slavery. A bedwench is the woman that would stay in the house with the master and would be raped by the master, routinely. And so it is offensive, I would say, to call a woman who is the victim of not just misogyny, not just racism, but misogynoir, to, I guess, spin the blame back onto her, because it's a lot easier, I suppose, to blame a woman for their own trauma rather than acknowledging that the trauma exists. The term is very heavily steeped in history, trauma, racism. So my thoughts personally about black women, women of color who date outside their race, I really don't fucking care. It's none of my business, and I think anyone has the right to their own agency, to their own feelings. And quite honestly, I, in some cases, kind of applaud a woman's ability to undermine the system, because the system is built inherently against us as black women. It's built to exploit people of color, and so being able to exploit that loophole as a woman of color, I think, is tremendous. I absolutely applaud it. It's the anti-self, the anti-blackness that I find a problem with. And this person who called me a bedwench, they made assumptions, several assumptions, based on probably how I speak, how I look, how I behave, how I carry myself. And I understand making assumptions. People make assumptions all the time. It's a healthy practice. I think that when you are in a position of danger, where there might be some harm that comes to you, making assumptions based on something that's never happened to you, something that you might have heard about, something that might have happened to you and you want to avoid, I think it is safe to make assumptions based on situations that might bring harm to you as a person. Yeah, that's a healthy practice in making assumptions. When it comes to looking at someone and basing grave, just sweeping assumptions on the way that they look, speak, and act, I can't get behind. I reserve all judgment until I actually speak to the person and know what they feel before I could, write them off as whatever I'm going to write them off as. And that means it takes some responsibility, it takes some research, it takes some accountability when getting to know other people. And unfortunately, a lot of people are fucking lazy. And so the first thing that I find exception with in making assumptions is that in being called a bedwench, there is this, I guess, it's implying that I am anti-black, that I dislike black people, and that I try to distance myself from black people, when that couldn't be any farther from the truth. And then also the assumptions of just the way that I carry myself and the way that I speak, being indicative of not just self-hatred, but glorifying white people. I grew up being told that I wasn't black enough, quite often, because of the way that I speak and the things that I was interested in. And so I feel some type of fucking way when someone, comes out the woodwork to tell me that I'm not black enough and that I hate myself because of the way that I talk. Because I go back and forth between coding, super duper black, being fucking ratchet and all that shit. I can just be, a well-educated black person. Like, I just don't understand why people equate being educated to being white. Because I don't owe any of my intelligence to the experience of being a white person, because I'm not a fucking white person. And I never want to be one, and I never will be one. So I don't understand why it's like the first thing that people jump on is that I don't sound black. It's just really fucking annoying, because I sound black because I'm a black person. And painting me into this corner of not, exemplifying all these behaviors that are indicative of blackness, it just is very limiting. It's reductive. It's insulting. Because black excellence exists. And it has nothing to do with whiteness. So when I am called something as derogatory as a bedwench, there are several things that are at play that just really bother me. It's the anti-blackness, the thought that I have this superiority complex over black people, but it's also the thought that I'm interested in white men. I find it offensive because, by and large, to me, men are pretty shitty, and white men are probably the worst type of men that the world has to offer. And so I always feel some type of way when someone assumes that I'm interested in white men. On top of the assumption that I'm only interested in white men, I find it really annoying the sense of entitlement, the sense of insecurity. It's just astounding how much it just pours out of you when you use the term bedwench, because it's often black men saying this, and it's this sense of entitlement to black women. They feel that not only are you trying to elevate yourself above the black experience, above black men, they're also saying, how dare you try to elevate yourself, because you should know your place, which is beneath us, subservient to us. And I just don't play that shit. Not interested, not fucking interested. And I'll never understand this sense of entitlement that so many black men have over black femmes. I just will never understand. It comes through when a black woman dates, outside the race, when black women date other genders, or just a black woman loving herself. Like, they can't fucking have anything, honestly, without some ashy ass nigga coming out the woodwork to offer his unsolicited fucking opinion. And it is so very annoying to have to deal with that as a person who codes very feminine. Yeah, I just find it funny that Black men have this ever-pervasive need to let their opinions be known about what Black women do, when on the other side, Black men date white women and put Black women down all the fucking time. It's really goddamn annoying. And I would prefer that people would just mind their own fucking business, but, like, you know, maybe just not put down people. I think it would be a lot easier to navigate these tough questions that we ask ourselves about race relations, gender relations, and all that stuff if we didn't feel the need to put others down in order to elevate ourselves. And all these issues that I find with the term bedwench and what it implies, the anti-blackness, the self-hate, the insecurity, the entitlement, the ignorance of trauma that is behind the word, the ignorance of racism and misogyny behind the word, all that shit just becomes a moot point, because at the end of the day, I don't like cis men. I don't like cis men. And so none of that shit even fucking matters, honestly, because this isn't even an experience that I'm interested in having. I just wanted it to be known what the word means and what all, like, implications come from using it. So from all of this, I suppose my only recommendation would be to be considerate, be thoughtful, understand the words that you're using and the assumptions that you're making about people before you say something fucking stupid. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Till next time.